Hello and welcome to the first episode of the season of the Gem City Gridiron Roundup podcast. As always, I am your host, Dalton Van Pelt, Scotch on the sidelines, two-time champ. Don't you forget it. A little bit weird and awkward this week. Zach is traveling back from Las Vegas, where hopefully he did some good drafts. Was able to build for his fantasy season. He's actually going to be joining. Zach is here live from. Can you hear me?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Zach is live from Las Vegas airport.
No, back in DIA, on the way back from the Vegas trip. So
Final connecting flight to
that's
shared.
Sheridan. Correct.
Okay. Where would you like to start since you have limited time? Would you rather IRL football or would you rather the matchups that matter?
We can do IRL.
All right, IRL football. You were probably in a fishbowl of some sorts this weekend, were you not?
Yep, I was at the Mirage Race and Sports Book. Well, I think it's a MGM now, but it's at the Mirage Hotel. That's where we like to partake in the games.
All right. Let's get right into it. First things first, Thursday night. I believe you were traveling down there on Thursday.
Yep, I was down there, but I got there by the Thursday night. I was there Thursday morning, so I got to watch the game in Vegas, and oh, it was fun.
I was actually surprised by the result when I woke up. I didn't end up watching the whole thing because I think I fell asleep on the couch for the fourth quarter. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yep. Yeah.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, there's a committee in the Lions backfield. There's a committee in the Chiefs backfield. They've got some wide receiver questions. They'll probably look to add or, just work some things out in practice to figure out who their guys are.
Yeah. The biggest thing with that was Travis Kelce being out week one, with the the bone bruised. Hopefully she'll be back this week, but yeah, the Chiefs receivers were a pretty big disaster. Um, yeah, just tough. It's tough when Patrick Mahomes is your leading rusher on your team. So that just is what it is. It was fun to watch. The Lions came ready to play to knock off the champs.
Moving on. Let's go Browns Bengals. This is one of the two games I watched. The first half was utterly atrocious. Um, it was 12 punts. No, 10 punts in the first 12 drives between the two teams.
Yeah, it was nasty there. If you watched the game, honestly, it was a just complete downpour. Um, that was definitely one of the games I bet on because it was just such a slot fest down there. So
What'd
yeah,
you bet on? Unders?
yeah, I took unders. A lot of unders. I only took one over, and that was the Chargers Dolphins game. But yeah, a lot like the majority of the games were unders. Um, but yeah, the Browns ran the ball quite a bit. Nick Chubb had most of those carries. Jerome Ford tacks on like 12 or 15 carries, just try to ice the game a little bit. Deshaun Watson rushes in a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Um, on the other hand, the Bengals were just, I mean, playing in the rain, and they're a passing team and just didn't quite work out. T. Higgins had 0 catches on 8 targets. Jamar Chase, serviceable, but Joe Burrow held under 100 yards. Not going to be a standard thing that's going to happen for the year, but yeah, the Bengals weren't ready to play as well as just playing in the rain is tough.
It kind of looked like two things. Deshaun Watson does not have chemistry with his receiving core yet. So I would expect that to improve over the season. And it looked like the Browns dared the Bengals to go over the top, and they just didn't do it as well as they normally do.
Yeah.
Or like it seemed like they dropped a lot of coverage deep, and they said you can beat us with small passes because the ways that Jamar Chase got involved were bubble screens and split out routes and stuff like that because he just was not getting any run outside of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute myself every now and then if the intercom comes on, so you can keep vamping. But
Uh,
if that
Fa-
happens, yeah,
Falcons, Panthers. It was a pretty tight game to start, and then the Falcons took it over in the second half. Tyler Algier with the big game, which was frustrating at first. Like by halftime, you were like, "What are they doing? Why are they screwing us out of Bijan Robinson points?" And then he just was, he got enough done. He got the touches in the air, and he got enough on the ground to be valuable. Obviously, Tyler Algier probably won't repeat this. It was a game of let's not let Desmond Ridder lose this for us.
yeah. I just don't trust Arthur Smith. Like you have Kyle Pitts and Drake London, and you just don't give them the ball at all. I know they only threw the ball 18 times, but it's tough when like it didn't surprise me because he just kind of does whatever he wants. It's whatever it takes to win the ball game for him. And if that man giving Tyler Algier 15 carries, that's what it meant. But just something that we have to get used to with that coaching staff and like Drake London, 0 catches on 1 target. Kyle Pitts, 2 catches on 3 targets. Bijan had like it was almost a 40% target share because he had 6 targets, but he only threw it 18 times. So in a game that they can win like that, they're going to want to run the ball. They got one of the best O lines in the league, so they're going to want to run the ball. And I I wouldn't say I wouldn't expect this from Tyler Algier again, but I could see him still getting 8 to 12 touches a game
It was
realistically.
a classic NFC South game.
Winnable.
Speaking of the NFC South, we had the Jaguars seal it away against the Colts. The Jaguars were down at 1 point. Anthony Richardson does get a little bit banged up on that goal line push because he was just letting his body go for it. Michael Pittman, we did not hear from him at all in the first half. I think he had 1 target, and then in the second half, he just goes off. No running backs could do anything. Evan Hull gets an injury in this game. So now they're down to Deion Jackson and maybe um, Zach
Zach
Moss
Moss.
if he comes
Hmm.
back next week.
He
Um,
should be
on
coming back next week.
on the other side, Travis Etienne and Calvin Ridley. My gosh, Travis Etienne is so fast. I saw this video on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, where he is rushing down the sideline to pick up this block on this Calvin Ridley touchdown.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He sprinted way down there. That was the fastest he's ever looked, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Um, um, Etienne does
fully
have a
healthy.
good. Yeah, he had a good game as well. And so I mean, the Jaguars just looked, like they were ready to play and they were ready to go. And yeah, they looked good. The Colts looked okay as well. Anthony Richardson, you know, did they kind of schemed up something for the rookie, and he hit a lot of easy passes. He got some carries, ran one in. He was fun to watch. That was a pretty fun game to watch. Um, just kind of going back and forth. Zay Jones gets the touchdown as well. The big surprising thing, Christian Kirk, he played like 65% of the snaps, but he only played in 3 wide receiver sets in the slot. He did not play on the outside. That's Zay Jones and Calvin Ridley. So that's going to kind of have to temper some expectations for Christian Kirk.
Moving on, we have an exciting game, which the Vikings always seem to play, even when it's a lower score than they normally have. Bucks 20, Vikings 17. Once again, it is Baker Mayfield down in Tampa. Mike Evans had the large amount of target share. At first, it looked like the touchdown that he scored was going to be the only thing that he did. Nobody could run the ball in this game, and Kirk Cousins threw 44 times.
Yeah, man, they're so disappointing sometimes. It's so hard to see, good players kind of barely get dragged along by an average quarterback, and it just is what it is. They're gonna lose games like this against bad teams, and they're gonna win some games against good teams. They're just very unpredictable, and you know, Jefferson got his, Addison caught a long touchdown, but pretty much, and then Hawkinson just got, short intermediate targets, 8 catches for 35 yards. It's just kind of tough. Madison, sneaks in at okay day because he catches a touchdown. We're just going to get a lot of these games by the Vikings, and it's tough to watch because they have such good weapons and theoretically a good offensive minded coach. But I don't know if Kirk Cousins will be there much longer after a couple like these next year or two. Just he's average, and that's kind of what it is.
Ryan Tannehill throws 3 interceptions as the New Orleans Saints barely outlast the Titans. Derrick Henry with a couple big plays. DeAndre Hopkins shows us some positives, and Derek Carr just finds a way to win it. Rashid Shaheed, he loves that dude a lot. That is clear. And Chris Olave also gets 10 targets. In the fourth quarter, he used Rashid Shaheed when it was ice the game time.
Yeah, it was the worst. That one was the worst game to watch. That game was a snooze fest. Like in the first halfway through the first quarter, there had been, I don't know, 3 field goals, 3 coaches challenges, multiple penalties. It was just ugly. It was like every game was in the second quarter, and they still had like 4 minutes to go in the first quarter. It was just ugly to watch. Just yeah, you couldn't say any good thing about that. A lot of field goals. Tannehill, like you said, threw 3 interceptions. Derek Carr just did enough. Jamal Williams did nothing on the ground. They're waiting for Kamara to get back after 3 games. Yeah, Michael Thomas, more of a third down red zone kind of guy from what it was looking like. Definitely going to lean more on Chris Olave. He had a pretty good game, as well as Rashid Shaheed. I think Michael Thomas will be used sparingly. But yeah, that game was just horrendous to watch. Hopefully both of them bounce back next week.
Saints will probably win the division.
Good chances they will.
Okay, speaking of snooze fest, the only other game in the morning in Wyoming, at least for on my TV, was the Niners Steelers. It was only a snooze fest in that it was over after the first half. Christian McCaffrey just completely dominant. The Steelers had zero confidence in this game. They got down early, and it looked like somebody had just like ran over their dog or something. I don't know what happened. Ayuk torched them. They lined him up against Patrick Peterson, who had an all right day, but he is clearly not physically dominant anymore, as Ayuk was just eating him for breakfast.
Yeah, Pittsburgh couldn't cover anybody. They just sat in zone, and they just kind of picked them apart. Debo and Ayuk, especially, the 2 touchdowns for Ayuk on the day. Kittle didn't do a whole lot. McCaffrey did what he did to show that he's the best running back in the league. And the Niners came ready to play, and they just put it on them. That was the main game on not the Mirage, and that's what because they have one game that has the sound on. And oh man, it was just they just beat them down. It was bad. The whole entire Pittsburgh offense looked anemic. Same old Matt Canada offense. Yeah, it was pretty bad. And then Deontay Johnson pulls up lame in the second quarter. He's got a hamstring injury. No real update on that. So yeah, it was bad.
It looks like there was a lot of garbage time for all the pass catchers for the Steelers. Najee Harris looked horribly inefficient. It looks like he has no juice in his legs.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to plug in my laptop.
All right.
And it's not, this thing ain't working. But no, yeah, they just don't look like they have any juice. They were just not ready to play. Mike Tomlin did not get them ready, and Kyle Shanahan did. So that's kind of what happens when you have one team that's prepared, one team that's not. I just love how everyone was, touting, the Steelers that they're gonna, be a lot better this year.
Exactly
That's
the
not
same.
it does not look like a whole lot better to me. Granted, it may just be San Francisco and them being just very, very good, which is possibly the case. but they just did not um, do what we kind of thought they were going to do.
All right. The Packers, a weird one. I watched the first half of the Packers Bears game, turned it off, and then it turned into Jordan Love is good or just competent.
Or the Green Bay Packers just own the Bears, kind of
Yeah, team
kind of
owners.
team owners.
Zach just had to mute his thing because there's an announcement over there. But the Packers own the Bears. Good news for Khalil Herbert. He gets involved in the offense, but he doesn't really do much with it. Rashawn Johnson gets about equal carries. That must come in the second half. 7 targets, 6 catches for 35 yards, and he does get in the end zone to make his line look a little bit better than anyone else's. It is a 3-headed monster for the Bears, and Aaron Jones had a few breakaway plays, 2 touchdowns. Aaron Jones, that's what he does. He gets in the end zone.
Yeah, they kind of leaned on Aaron Jones, and he did pretty well. Romeo Dubs catches 2 touchdowns in this game. Musgrave and Jaden Reed, the rookies, both looked pretty good. Yeah, that was just another game that the Packers look again. Is it the Packers looking really good, or is it the Bears just being a bad team? It's week 1. We're gonna have to find out over these next couple of weeks. I think it might be a little bit of both. I think it's more showing of the Bears and the Packers. But that was the other one of the other games that I had on the parlay. So I had Packers up a half.
Nice. It was a grinded out, wet, cold game in Foxborough. Return of Tom Brady wearing the 12 on the field. He looks really old on camera now all of a sudden. Kendrick Bourne coming out party. He gets the end zone twice. And the Eagles do just enough to get over the line, even though nobody really had a great game for them.
Yeah, that's the thing with going against the Patriots and Bill Belichick. He dials up great defense, even if the offense doesn't do, fantastic things. They made Jalen Hurts, dink and dunk their way down the field. They put a spy on them and just did not let them get loose, essentially. AJ Brown had, I don't know, like 9 for 70 or 10 for 60. I can't remember what the actual stat line was, but not everything in front of him. Same with Devontae Smith, everything in front. Dallas Goedert, a bagel. So, yeah, it was just New England defense at its finest. Jalen Hurts, mediocre performance against Bill Belichick.
Baltimore's defense dominated the rookie quarterback-led Houston Texans. Big storyline out of this is J.K. Dobbins is done for the year with a torn Achilles. You hate to see that. That sounds very painful. Zay Flowers works out a connection with Lamar Jackson. And Lamar does what Lamar does and doesn't throw for very many yards. However, he does disappoint with very little on the ground as well.
Yeah, it was kind of a disappointing game. Lamar didn't do a whole lot. Everyone had big, high expectations of J.K. Dobbins. He does, score a touchdown and played a lot of snaps right before he got hurt, which you said, torn Achilles. He's done for the year. This was his contract year. He was trying to play for a better contract after holding out. Just kind of a bummer. Justice Hill comes in and scores 2 touchdowns. 8 carries for 9 yards, but 2 touchdowns kind of gets it done. And obviously they have Gus Edwards on the roster. They have old Melvin Gordon sitting on their practice squad, and he's going to be elevated to the active roster. I don't know what that means, but I think they're going to rely on Lamar and their receivers with Flowers and Bateman and work in some Mark Andrews. He missed the game, but they're probably going to work in those tight ends and even Odell Beckham a little bit. He had a couple catches, if I were to remember.
Yeah, I think it was 3 catches.
Yeah, so he's going to kind of spread it out. I think they're just going to have to lean on Lamar a little bit, and with the new offensive coordinator Todd Monken, I think they want to throw the ball more. That kind of showcase with like what Lamar did. Not a whole lot of rushing. The rushing was handled more by the running backs. Lamar's still going to run, but it might be like 6 to 8 times a game instead of 9 to 14.
The Rams dominate the second half against the Seahawks. Puka Nacua, the Rams have done it again. They found Matty Stafford a best friend. Kenneth Walker Jr. Kenneth Walker the third has a pretty nice game for those who drafted him in the third or fourth round. He pretty much cemented that job for another week. DK Metcalf made the defenders look pretty little. Gino really didn't do much. There's a funny clip of Gino backpedaling as Aaron Donald's coming to attack him, and he's just, oh my God.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was a shocking game. Sean McVay and the Rams, no one expected them to beat Seattle. Seattle with, a good offense last year. Pete wasn't ready, and Matthew Stafford just sliced and diced them up all day. No touchdowns for Stafford, but Puka and Tutu and Puka. They both end up with
Puka Tutu.
117. Puka Tutu. They both end up with 119 receiving yards. The stat was Puka Nacua is the second player ever to go over 100 yards in his NFL debut, being a round 5 pick or later. The other one is Alan Hearns. That's a good fun name from a couple years ago.
88 Jaguars.
Yep. So, and then Tutu Atwell too. Just 119 yards. Higbee didn't do a whole lot. The story of that is, everyone kind of got involved. Like Cam Akers, he did end up getting a touchdown. They kind of leaned on him in the fourth quarter as they were icing it away. But it was Kyron Williams playing more like that 60-40. And he got 2 touchdowns in the first half. So while they were trailing and playing in the game, they were leaning on Kyron and kind of using Cam Akers short yardage. And then obviously they leaned on Akers to ice it away.
Listen to Akers' line: 22 attempts, 29 yards, a touchdown, a 12-yard long run, which means he got 17 yards on 21 carries.
Yeah, I mean, the last drive, they were just kind of trying to run
That's
it out
bad.
and kind of getting stuff. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a Zeke line.
Okay. The Commanders pulled away at the death. They tried as hard as they could to lose this game against Arizona and Joshua Dobbs. Nothing on offense happened in this game except for Brian Robinson. And even he didn't have a great game now that I'm looking at it. Ugly offensive game for both teams.
Yeah, that was a game that was kind of pushed off in the corner of the big screen. Not a whole lot of action in that game. Obviously, Brian Robinson caught a touchdown pass. Sam Howell ran one in. Very mediocre on Arizona's front. They did score a defensive touchdown, which kind of kept them in the ball game. A lot of field goals. I believe weather was a little tough there as well, since it was in Washington. That whole East Coast kind of got hit with a lot of weather. So, not going to be a whole lot there. Zach Ertz caught like 6 passes for like 20 yards. So, I mean, if you want your 8 points from tight end, there you go. Tight end is a dumpster fire. It is bad right now. Over the NFL.
The most entertaining game of the weekend. Unfortunately, I did not get to watch this one, so hopefully you could share some insight while we can still squeeze you in. Miami, LA Chargers. The Chargers end up losing this one in the final 2 minutes with Tyreek Hill touchdown.
Yeah, that game was electric, just back and forth. Raheem Mostert, gets in the action early. Austin Eckler does Austin Eckler things. He gets a little banged up, says he's got a little ankle injury. But Joshua Kelly looked just as good like he did in the preseason. They both end up as top 12 running backs, I believe, this week. Both score a touchdown. So Keenan Allen looked okay. Mike Williams got banged up, came back in. Donald Parham caught a touchdown. But the big story was Tyreek Hill just going berserk and catching everything. Tua looked good. So what's this?
That's Tyreek Hill when he runs away from you. Peace.
Oh, peace. Yeah, he just looked good. Next week, I don't think that's going to be the case. They play New England, so he's definitely going to reel him in a little bit.
The Raiders and Jacoby Myers did just enough to spoil the Broncos on an opening day game. Huge cloud hanging over top of the Mile High Stadium all game. And that continued into Russell Wilson's play. Somehow he had 34 attempts and only 177 yards. I don't know what kind of offense that is, but I, as a rule, do not watch very much Broncos. So I watched like the first quarter of this one and then turned it off.
Yeah, it was not super entertaining. Jacoby Myers, had a really good game. He did get knocked out of the game with concussion, kind of a cheap shot. Hopefully he'll be all right. Come back soon. Vontae Adams, okay game. He's blanketed by Surtain all day. Javonte Williams looked pretty good, which was a good thing. He had about 15 touches. Looked okay. First game back, and it's been less than a year, so he did pretty well. P. Ryan got mixed in a little bit. Who was Cortland Sutton caught a touchdown. Other than that, they're kind of waiting on Jerry Jeudy to get back next week. Nothing a whole lot from Marvin Mims. Greg Dulcich, one of the tight ends, got hurt. Don't know about that situation. I just know he got with a leg injury in the second quarter, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they can kind of bounce back this season. Everyone's kind of high on them, obviously, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see.
The only receiving core in the NFL that disappoints their quarterback more than the Kansas City Chiefs is the New York Football Giants. The Dallas defense puts it on them. That was utter domination. I watched 3 quarters of it, and it was literally like jerking off with Chris Collinsworth to Cowboys highlights. Like Chris Collinsworth was guiding a masturbation session of Cowboys fans.
Oh man, in the rain too. That thing was a downpour. Oh man.
Yeah, it didn't affect the Cowboys too much.
Well, yeah, they ran the ball quite a bit. Tony Pollard, nice game. Dallas defense, great game. Dak did not have to do a whole lot. Yeah, Daniel Jones was he played into the fourth quarter, like half it, like till the end, almost the end of the game. He played until like a minute 30 to go, and he just kept getting pummeled and pummeled and pummeled. Yeah, it was tough to watch, and and then the rain was just pounding down there, and like Brian Dable said, nope, keep going out there, keep getting hit.
Tony Pollard squeaks into the end zone 2 times, and by that I mean he like lightly jogged into the end zone 2 times. The Mike McCarthy offense was on display for the first time, as he is now the play caller again in Dallas, the first time since he's gone to Dallas. They had a lot of motion plays, and they really spread the ball around. I don't really know what to take from it because they really didn't run a lot of plays because they had such a huge lead. But the talent on the Dallas team looks pretty great. Jake Ferguson gets a ton of targets in double coverage and isn't able to come down with any of those. I'd say that Dak has some confidence in him, and that's a good sign for that player.
Yeah, Lamb looked good. Yeah. Okay.
All right, and the last game we have to talk about is the one that's currently on Monday night. Aaron Rodgers goes down with an ankle injury, goes in for X-rays. We do not have an update on that as far as I know.
Last thing they said that X-rays were negative.
It's crazy how fast you can turn around images these days.
I know. Otherwise, Brees Hall almost ran a 97-yarder in to the house. Looked a little winded after about 83 yards, got caught from behind. Obviously, he's coming back from an ACL injury as well. I doubt he ran an 80-yard run in practice this year. So still kind of getting back with there. Dalvin Cook, haven't seen a whole lot. I watched a little bit.
He's
Josh
running pretty
Allen,
good.
Yeah, Josh Allen doing Josh Allen things. Both the tight ends look good. Diggs looks good. Buffalo's kind of moving the ball pretty well. James Cook looks pretty good. Yeah, it should be a fun season for the Bills, and hopefully we get a little bit good news on Rodgers. Otherwise, it's Zach Wilson again, and we all know how that worked last time. So, yeah.
All right. I looks like we have 10 minutes left, which is perfect for you to get off of here. You can take off whenever you need to. I look to squeak out a win against Drew in week 1. It looks like that is going to be the case. It looked like I was going to blow him out by quite a lot more, and then game script did not dictate that for me. Heath, Wallops, Cole. And if things don't turn around, it is quite possible Cole breaks the record for least points scored in a PPR season or game.
Very possible. Very possible. I'll run all those numbers tomorrow morning. I'll update the Hall.
Which is funny because Heath is likely going to take the first skins this week.
Yeah, skin money.
Blaster takes care of business against Patrick. Ekes that one out with the Bills defense. There's still a possibility he could lose, but it's not very likely.
Mm-hmm.
Not super likely based on basically the Jets would have to come out and score 40 on them in this.
All right. Gotta go. Peace.
All right. See ya. I'll finish this off. Thank you, Zach, for spending what time you did have in DIA. Live from DIA, part 2.
See y'all next week.
All right. Now it's just a solo show for the rest of the way out. We didn't expect Zach to be in for as long as he was. Lucas Stewart takes care of business against Cody Sackett. I don't know what that says about Sackett's team, but he has to go back to the drawing board for week 2. Dark Horse takes care of Lean. Lean had some poor performances from some people. Lamar Jackson being the main contributor to the poor performance. And lastly, Zach takes out Brinkman. Brees Hall, 13.6 points, seals the deal for Zach on Monday night. No bets this week. And that actually draws us to a conclusion on this week's episode. We just hit you with the IRL football and the matchups that mattered. I really hope you enjoyed week 1. And this is the end.